If you're looking for the ultimate luxury SUV that can carry a bunch of people and stuff while making a statement, the Cadillac Escalade is a pretty tough act to follow. What started out as a rushed effort for Cadillac back in 1999 in response to the Lincoln Navigator has quickly become a cult favorite, the best-selling three-row body-on-frame luxury SUV across the globe. Well, around 4 years ago, Cadillac gave us an all-new fifth-generation Escalade, and they made one crucial change, giving it an independent rear suspension that finally gave this vehicle the interior space it needed for large families. Well, for 2025, just like its siblings, the Tahoe and Yukon, the Escalade is getting a pretty significant refresh. And as you can see, the front end gets a new fascia at the front, while on the inside, we have a massive 55-inch pillar-to-pillar display as standard, making it the largest infotainment system you're going to find in the industry. So as you can see, this week, we are testing out the fully loaded version known as the Escalade Platinum, painted in crystal white tri-coat. And the big question I answered, has Cadillac made enough changes to their flagship luxury SUV to allow this vehicle to remain the king of the segment? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we start talking about the exterior styling changes for 2025, let me first start by popping the hood and reminding you guys what's powering this thing. Now, unlike most of its rivals, Cadillac still offers a V8 engine underneath the hood, which actually became standard this year because the diesel engine option was dropped. Now, as you can see, underneath the hood, you're going to find the tried and true engine. In fact, Cadillac has been using this motor in the Escalade for decades even. It's the company's latest 6.2-liter naturally aspirated pushrod V8 with gasoline direct injection and I believe cylinder deactivation as well. Power output figures here are unchanged. It's still rated at 420 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque. It all goes out through a 10-speed automatic transmission, while rear-wheel drive is going to be standard. For an extra $3,000, Cadillac will sell you their full-time four-wheel drive system. Only the Escalade V has a standard all-wheel drive because of its supercharged V8 engine. Now, it all goes out through, I think I mentioned earlier, a 10-speed auto, and fuel economy is rated at 14 in the city and 18 in the highway. That's, of course, on premium gas. You have a 14-gallon fuel tank. With its combined rating of 16, you're looking at just under 400-ish miles of range on a full tank. Now, Cadillac doesn't quote the 0 to 60 time. The last one we tested did it in just over 6 seconds. Top speed should be about 120 miles an hour. And this is a big body-on-frame truck-based SUV, so it can tow up to 8,000 pounds in this particular configuration, while its curb weight is pretty heavy at just under 6,200 pounds. Keep in mind, again, if you guys want more power, the V offers a supercharger attached to this engine that delivers nearly 700 horsepower, but hopefully we'll get one of those to test for a full week, and we'll save that for its own unique review. But let's go ahead and close up the hood here and talk about the exterior styling of the latest Escalade. Now, as you can see, this vehicle got a pretty significant makeover this year, and it borrows a lot of styling cues from the all-electric Cadillac Escalade IQ, which I think is a good thing because the pre-refresh version of the Escalade, to me, didn't look imposing enough. In fact, I always thought the GMC Yukon Denali actually looked more like an Escalade, but with the updates they've made this year, you can see the Cadillac Crest grille has gotten even larger with the wreathless crest. You can see my test car is the loaded Platinum trim. If you guys don't like all of the chrome and bright accents, you can go for a Sport Platinum. That's an extra $500 that'll dark out all the chrome and give you its own unique grille appearance. You can see the paint color. This is called crystal white tri-coat. It's an extra $1,300. It is absolutely stunning with the lines of this vehicle, and the headlight signature you can see changed. Now you have a vertical stacked full LED headlight design, which also does kind of like an animation welcome dance when you approach the vehicle and lock and unlock it. You can see the turn signals are LEDs. You have a bunch of individual LED diodes. It looks like 9, which is something that we've seen again on the new electric Cadillac models. And then the Cadillac grille, as you can see, also has an illuminated light signature that goes around the grille, along with the Cadillac wreathless crest, which is also illuminated. You have integrated parking sensors, 360 camera, and then of course Super Cruise, their hands-free driving tech, is going to be standard on every version of the Escalade, which is definitely a nice touch considering the price point of this vehicle. But overall, let me know in the comment section below if you guys like the exterior design changes. I personally think the Platinum is probably the way to go, but I might spend the extra $500 and add the black accents from the Sport package, basically, which they call it a Sport Platinum. Now, moving around the side profile, this vehicle is big, and it certainly is very imposing. It rides on a 121-inch long wheelbase, with a 212-inch long overall length. So dimensionally, it hasn't really changed. If you guys want more space, the ESV is around 15 inches longer in the overall length and around 14 inches longer in the wheelbase. Keep in mind, the Escalade IQ is actually more along the size of an ESV. So this is a big vehicle, but it's definitely not the biggest SUV, but it is larger versus most of its rivals, except the Grand Wagoneer, which the Wagoneer is a little bit bigger. You can see the wheels. There is a new 24-inch wheel option, which is among the largest in the segment, although Lincoln also just offers it on the redesigned Navigator. These wheels are next to $1,800. You can see they're riding on a 285/40 R24 Bridgestone Alenza all-season tire. GM's Magno rheological dampers are standard if you guys go for the premium luxury and sport trims. However, this Platinum that I'm showing you here ups the ante with an adaptive air suspension as well. You get big disc brakes, although you can also get a performance brake package, I believe, that'll add in some Brembo brakes. These are just the standard brakes. And then I believe with the air suspension, ground clearance should be around 8-ish inches, and then you can increase that to nearly 10 when you guys have it in its lifted setting. I love the full paint finish along the wheel arch trim. You have some more chrome along the side of the vehicle. This model also comes standard with their power deploying running boards. There's a Cadillac logo here to let everybody know that you are driving a Cadillac. And then of course the mirrors are power folding. You have extra chrome trim along the side, which looks good. And you also have integrated turn signals and full 360 camera. That's standard on this trim. You can see this panoramic sunroof is also included if you guys go for the premium luxury trims and up, which is a nice touch. And then if you back away from the vehicle, you can see the overall silhouette hasn't really changed. This is, again, a huge car, but it also provides all the space and luxury that you could want. Keep in mind, the ESV does look a little ungainly from certain angles. I actually prefer the lines of the standard model as opposed to the longer wheelbase. Now, as you can see, moving around to the rear of the vehicle, this is where the changes aren't really as noticeable, which you didn't really need. The rear I always thought was already a very attractive design. You can see there's a nicely integrated rear spoiler, third brake light along with your mirror that's or your wiper that's kind of tucked underneath the spoiler. The taillights have that signature full LED light strip that's vertical that goes almost to the roof of the vehicle, which is a nice touch. And then of course there's some badging back here with the Escalade badge. That 600 badge there is supposed to be the torque and Newton meters. I really don't like how they do that because it doesn't really mean much to most people in here in America. You can see you've got your cameras there for the digital camera rearview mirror and your backup camera. And then down here at the rear bumper, you have some black accents with integrated parking sensors, rectangular integrated exhaust tips, because remember this vehicle does come standard with a V8, so it has a much better sound versus most of its rivals. In fact, let's go ahead and start that engine up so you guys can hear what it sounds like real quick. And that's kind of a big selling feature with the Escalade, especially if you're comparing it to the Navigator, which has a twin-turbo V6, or the Grand Wagoneer, which has an inline straight six. Now, looking at the cargo area, before we open up the cargo area, I do want to point out that the Escalade does offer the ability to open up the rear glass separately, which is a nice touch if you don't want to open up this completely, although it's not quite as good as the split tailgate design that you have in the new Lincoln Navigator. If you push the Cadillac logo, you can see that activates the power liftgate, which is also hands-free. And this is where the Cadillac continues to be the leader in terms of cargo space, because even though this model that we're showing you here is the shorter wheelbase version, you have tops in the class space behind the third row, about 25.5 cubic feet of space, which is plentiful. And you also have really nice carpeted area back here. This whisper beige interior, I personally would not get if you have a bunch of kids or stuff, because it can kind of get dirty really fast. You can see there is a underfloor storage area underneath the cargo floor, which is nice. And if you want, you can basically push these buttons, and right now the seats are too far back, but if you fold down the third row, it expands the cargo to around 72.9 cubic feet. And if you fold down everything, including the second row, which I'm surprised you can't do from back here, unlike some models, and that's because my test car has the rear seat executive package. You do have a power outlet back here. If you fold down everything, Cadillac says you get a maximum of 120.5 cubic feet of space, although this particular model here, I suspect doesn't have that much because of the fixed center console and the seats that don't fold down. So kind of keep that in mind if you guys want that executive second row seating package. Now moving on to the interior of this thoroughly revised 2025 Escalade. Obviously the outside is still recognizable as a Cadillac Escalade, but what about on the inside? Before we get inside, here's the key fob for the vehicle. You can see the key fob is GM's latest intelligent access key. It's completely unchanged. It's a little different versus some of the other GM keys, aside from the Cadillac logo and some metallic trim. It's a nice size feeling key as well. It feels pretty high quality. Lots of buttons here, of course, for lock, unlock, remote start. You can also pop open the separate rear glass hatch or open up the tailgate and also activate a panic function. I'm surprised that Cadillac doesn't have like a smart park feature or the ability to open up the doors from the fob itself, but maybe that's something that Cadillac will offer in due time. But as you approach the vehicle, as you can see, the door handles look totally traditional pull style, but they're actually fixed into position. If you touch that little area there, that will lock the door for you. As you can see, once it locks, the mirrors will also power fold in. You can also turn it on and off a beep setting, the horn to actually chirp whenever you lock the vehicle. And then, of course, because my test car is the Platinum trim, it has the automatic opening and closing doors. So as you touch the back of the door handle, just push the little pressure pad here, and that will essentially open up the door for you automatically. Now you can set that to either turn on and off. You can have it set to open up in a standard position. This is the maximum opening. And I also want to point out there are sensors in each of the door handles and each of the parts of the door to prevent the door from bashing into another vehicle, or if you have a tight garage. But when there's nothing to hit it, basically you back away, the door will open up its full amount, which allows you to see the cavernous interior. And as you can see, my test car has the crystal white tri-coat on the outside with the whisper beige Gideon semi-aniline premium leather. So this is the upgraded leather that you get with the Platinum package. That's part of that extra $20,000. The seats adjust in 16 different ways. They are heated, ventilated, and massaging, and you also get a 2-person memory on the driver's side, although you don't get a memory function on the passenger side, which is something that a lot of its rivals offer you. You can see the Gideon part is going to be, I believe, the upper portion here, where this is whisper beige. This light color looks nice, but it's also going to look like crap if you don't keep it clean because of its light color. You can already see there's a little bit of like a black smudge there. I really like the way the wood grain looks. This is kind of an interesting glossy wood, but I love the texture of the wood with the aluminum trim. You've got real leather stitching on the upper portion here, and on this lower portion, you have too much piano black plastic here, especially in a lot of touch point areas. The window controls are one touch up down for all four. They actually have a nice satisfying clicky feel to them. It's this different window control than some other GM products. You have your power folding mirror controls here, of course, and you also have this lower portion here in that whisper beige, although technically this is hard touch plastic. Don't like that. With the Platinum trim, you also get an upgraded 38 speaker AKG audio system, which the executive rear seat package on my test car increases that count to 42 speakers, which is absolutely ridiculous. But overall, you can see the interior certainly makes a great first impression. Now, obviously it had those retractable running boards that's standard on this Platinum trim. You can see that whisper beige carpet already looks like crap. So the fact that Cadillac uses a light color carpet would probably require me to get the rubber floor mats to prevent that from happening. But hopping inside, you can see the power deploying running board is definitely a nice touch. Helps short people like myself get in. And then of course the door is really far. I don't even have to bother with that. Just put your foot on the brake. That will automatically close just the driver's door for you. Now you can turn that on and off in the settings, which is a nice touch. And then when you want to start the vehicle up, start-stop button is right here where you'd expect it to be. And this vehicle is not a hybrid or a mild hybrid, so it has a traditional small block V8 starter noise. Kind of a low rev limiter as well, but it certainly is nice how it has a V8, which again, a lot of its competitors are dumping a V8 where you can only get, boosted 6-cylinder engines. But looking at this interior, you can see, boy, does this interior make a great first impression. Because as you guys know, Lincoln introduced a 48-inch display in the Navigator, and Cadillac basically gave Lincoln a big middle finger because this is a 55-inch display. As you can see, 55 inches from pillar to pillar, making it one of the biggest displays you're going to find in the segment. Of course, runs off of Google with Google built in. It's an Android automotive-based system. And you also have a brand new steering wheel here, which the 2-spoke wheel is very, very trendy. It's very appropriate for this vehicle. I actually like how I'm able to hold my hand here and just kind of rest it when I'm driving. You have paddles to control the 10-speed auto. You have Super Cruise, which is standard. This is their hands-free driver assistance tech, one of the best hands-free driving you're going to find in the business. And then if you guys go for the premium luxury trims and up, you'll get the head-up display. It's a little bit of a small heads-up display, if I'm being honest, compared to some of its rivals, which have like augmented reality. But I mean, who cares when you have massive displays? Actually, technically, this from the driver's display to the center display is one screen, while the passenger display is its own screen. So Cadillac doesn't tell us what the size is of this screen or that screen or this screen, but it certainly is wild, and it's also kind of nicely tucked away where it's not, I don't think, intrusive, but it is kind of a far reach for somebody of my stature. It's a little too far of a reach. Now, in terms of the materials, this upper portion you can see has a soft touch injection molded plastic. No real leather there, but you rarely will touch that. Instead, you have the real leather down here. Love this beautiful strip of wood trim that's echoing from the door panels onto the dash. It looks fantastic, although I think it would have been better if it was a matte finish wood, because it does have irritating reflections from the windshield into the wood, or if bright sunlight is hitting the dash, it also will reflect that into your face. So I don't love that feature. The wheel itself has a power tilt telescoping function where you can easily get a comfortable driving position, especially for my height. You have some interesting turn signal stock and drive selector stock or gear selector stock. This right here controls the 10-speed auto. You basically push the N to go into park, you pull it towards you to go into neutral and hold it, kick it down to go into drive. While you're pulling it towards you, do the same thing but go up to go in reverse. You can see there's your backup camera, which is a full 360 camera that's standard, I believe, on every version, which includes trajectory and distance markers, parking sensors. You also have like a trailer hitch view if you guys are planning to hook up a trailer, which is a nice touch, obviously, which is good considering how, you know, this vehicle is designed to do something like that. You also have like a curb view to keep yourself from curbing those massive 24-inch wheels. And then it looks like there's also different views here where you could do inside the trailer if you have an accessory camera attached to that. Obviously, with Google built in, you can also use Google to tell it a couple of commands. It has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Unlike the iQ, a lot of their GM's gas or electric vehicles don't have CarPlay or Android Auto, but the gas-powered ones do, which is definitely a nice touch. This screen, I will say, isn't the brightest screen. I have it on maximum brightness now, and I think that it's actually too dim, and you can't make it any brighter. So I do find, again, that to be a problem. Same thing with the screen down here. I also want it to be brighter. You can actually see all of the freaking irritating reflections that you get from the roof of the vehicle reflected onto the screen, so that's taking a little bit of getting used to. This separate screen here is to control your climate functions. You can see there's your quad zone climate control. You can also go into your heated and cooled seats, and you can also go into your massage function here. You can see lots of different customizations, 5 different types of massages, 3 different types of intensities. The massage also works well. You can also go into the rear seat and control the massage for the rear seats as well, along with your memory adjustments. The passenger, however, actually does have memory, so there's no separate button, but I'm glad I checked that, because the passenger side does have a 2-person memory function. Your headlight controls are located in this screen here, so that's not a separate headlight control here. You do have actual buttons for your 4-wheel drive system, and if you push that, I believe that goes into your drive mode selector. There's a total of 5 different drive modes: touring, sport, off-road, and then a my mode as well, in addition to a tow haul. We'll try those out when we get the vehicle out on the road. You can see there's buttons here for your Super Cruise, along with your audio control switches, trailer brake controllers here, and you can raise and lower the air suspension from here, and you can also put the 4-wheel drive system into a 2-high, 4-high, 4-low. There's even a low range, which you don't get in the Escalade V, of course. But again, this is a real truck-based SUV, so I very much appreciate that. The controls here, you can see you can adjust the head-up display from here. You can adjust the power assist side steps, the doors and the windows, of course. Where you can open up the glove box. You can see the glove box there is damped and lined with felt. It's nice bin style. Gives you an additional storage there, which is a nice touch. And then if you want, you can go into an auto park system. You can go pull up the camera from here. And then, of course, this is the party trick with this model. It's part of the extra 20 grand is the power opening and closing doors. So if you want, you can really impress your passengers by opening up the doors for them. So you can see here, I can open up almost all the doors for them right from the screen, which is a really nice touch. However, if I put my foot on the brake, it only closes the driver's door. It doesn't close all the other doors. You have to, again, go into here and manually close those doors. It's a little finicky sometimes. You have to kind of touch it right there when you want it to, but that is a really cool party trick. That's something a lot of its rivals don't even offer. This is like something that Cadillac stole from Rolls-Royce, but hey, it's their flagship SUV, so I kind of expect it to have all that level of luxury and technology. You can see there's like another screen there to show the climate and a nice little overview of the cabin. There's another overview of your seats along with your climate control functions. So most of the times you're going to be touching this screen, but when you're touching this screen here, it's also a little bit too far of a reach. So I find this to be a little annoying. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. There's also, I noticed, a lot of unused real estate. For example, this right here is the display for the driver's instrument panel display. So I can slightly customize this. I can go into a night vision display that's part of the Platinum package, which obviously it's not going to show very well right now because it's light time. You can also go into your driver assistance display, a Google Maps display. Most of the times you're going to have in the gauge display, but I just don't like the way that looks. It looks a little cheap. There's also a lot of unused real estate here. This screen here, as you can see here, you can go into information. This right here basically just stays the same. I want the screen to just be brighter. And then if you come over here to the passenger side, technically there's a filter here to kind of keep the driver from being able to see that. You can pull up things like web browsing, YouTube, for example. You can pull up your favorite YouTuber, of course. Hopefully that's me. You can basically use this as a browser and connect it to headphones, or go into your home display here and pull up Hulu, an actual web browser, Tubi. So this is a really cool feature. I find this to be much more useful versus the passenger display in the Grand Wagoneer and Wagoneer. It's a much larger display. It's easier to see and easier to interact with. I just don't know if I personally would want this unless you constantly have a passenger princess that wants to be able to control things and send stuff here, or just kind of plug it into an HDMI. I think most people though would just use your phone, but I guess that's kind of good if you're planning to watch movies. That's kind of a nice touch. The wireless phone charging pad is located here. As you can see, there's your USBs located right behind here. And then you can see a lot of piano black plastic here, which I don't love. And if you don't feel like touching it, you can use this little knob, but the click there could definitely be nicer. So that's kind of a small little thing that I think Cadillac should work on. You have a nice volume knob here. Appreciate that. And then you have some actual hard buttons here for the climate, which is a quick off feature, start, stop, defeat, and then an auto hold functionality. There's another nice little storage compartment here, which is good because aside from the cup holders, there isn't much kind of open storage here. If I look here, you can see that's a nice padded center console. Open that up, you can see there's actually a built-in fridge slash freezer in this particular one. It's an extra $700. This obviously is a great feature if you plan to use road trips, or use this on road trips. You have a USB-A and a USB-C in addition to the A over here for charging. And then the seats, like I mentioned earlier, these are the semi-aniline seats. They are super comfortable and supportive. They do a great job of just being, a comfortable seat to sit in, and the massage function works well along with the cooled function. You have some beautiful Alcantara on the actual headliner that's part of that Platinum package. You can see 42 speakers total, so there's a ton of speakers in the A-pillar and the roof panel. You have, again, more buttons here where you can raise and lower the back seats. The third row from here, you can also open and close this retractable shade in addition to opening up the sunroof, which offers a tilt function, and it also opens up completely with the built-in wind deflector. This only opens up basically over the two front seats, obviously, but it certainly opens up a pretty large amount. It lets in a lot more air and natural light, obviously. So overall, the interior certainly is going to wow and impress anybody, especially if you're coming from the old one, which only had a 38-inch display. Love the fact that Cadillac, again, kept Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Build quality also seems pretty solid. Really nice materials. I just think the screen is a little too dim. There's a couple of software enhancements that I think Cadillac should consider doing. Take a page out of Lincoln's playbook, of course, with the Navigator. But overall, this is definitely an interior that's going to wow you, especially if you guys really like technology. Now moving into the rear seat of the new Cadillac Escalade, just like on the front seats, you have these power opening and closing doors, which if you back away, the door will automatically open to its fullest setting. And as you can see, my particular test car has a really pricey option, the second row executive rear seats. For an extra $7,500, it basically turns this seat into just as nice of a seat as the two front seats, because they adjust as well in 14 different ways. They're power adjustable, they're heated and ventilated. You have the same beautiful and cushy semi-aniline leather with the speakers also built into the head restraints. The seats themselves look really nice, but again, you have more of that beige carpet, which is gonna look like crap after a few years. Same really nice materials, real leather, wood, metal trim, nice padded leather over here. It is hard touch plastic here with additional storage, and you have metal speaker covers, and the only thing that's really missing is a retractable shade. I think for $7,500 it should include that, and it's kind of an issue for me. I know a lot of families really like this feature. If you have small kids, you really should have that considering the price point of this vehicle. Now getting inside, there's a nice little leather lined grab handle here on the B pillar, which helps short people like myself crawl in. And then once I get in, as you can see, the door is a little bit of a far reach. Obviously there's no pedal to step on, but what you can do is you can basically just tap on this right here, or at least, where is that button for the door? That's kind of irritating. Position, no. Yeah, there usually is supposed to be a door. Oh, here we go. You have to go there to door, and then you can close the door over here, and that will allow you to close the door. It really automatically should default to that. I don't know why I had to go through so many menus to find it, but Obviously, when you close the door there with the power feature, it's definitely a very wow factor of this vehicle. But once you're back here, you can see Cadillac says you have up to 42 inches of legroom back here, which 42 inches is a huge amount. This is practically my driving position. I can stretch out and get super comfortable. I can easily cross my legs and get comfortable. This console here though definitely does eat into your space, your knee room a little bit, but at least it's covered in the same nice leather with the stitching. You have beautiful wood cup holders here along with 2 USB-C charging ports, which is a nice touch. You have a big storage compartment down here along with your HDMI plugs down here and an actual 12-volt power outlet, which is not supposed to be coming out like that, but it looks like it still works. The executive rear seat package also includes infotainment systems or screens back here. So you can basically use this like you'd use that passenger display where it has streaming services built in. You have headphones you can connect to that are wireless. You can pull up a web browser because the car actually has built-in Wi-Fi hotspot, of course. You can also go to a screen share functionality if you want to share it with the passenger or with the right screen as well. So that's all very cool. I just love the fact that this is, you know, very big. It's also not, or it is slightly adjustable where you can kind of tilt it down, but you can't actually lower it. So that could be an issue, but at least it gives you the ability to tilt it. But it also feels very sturdy, really well made. So that's something that I think is going to be important considering the price point of this vehicle, obviously. Down here, you can see there's also a separate 8-inch display, which allows you to control your own climate control functions. You can go into here, turn on your cooled seats, turn on the massage function, which the massage is basically the same massage that's in the front seats. It works really well. It's a great feature as well. And you can also go into your phone charging. It has dual wireless phone charging pads. You can also go into your climate functions here. And then if you tap on that, you can go into some settings along with your massage function. This is where you again access the ambient lighting. There's also a conversation enhance feature where it has basically a microphone in the front that'll amplify your voice into the third row, which is going to be helpful if you guys don't feel like screaming at your third row passengers. You can also adjust the ambient lighting from back here, adjusting the brightness. So again, lots of cool features, but this is all part of that extra $7,500 that you pay for this particular trim. Now, as you can see, you also have your dual wireless charging pads, which is interesting because the front only gets one nice padded center console. And then underneath this here, you can see, I love this feature. This to me is probably going to be the reason why some people choose this feature. If you regularly get chauffeured around in this vehicle, you're gonna love this because these tray tables that pop out basically look like they were stolen off of like your favorite first class airline. This is amazing. It's made out of real metal. It feels so sturdy, and you can basically use this to kind of work on things. You can have your computer sit here, you can get some work done, you can eat while you're back here. The tray table is also really adjustable. I mean, there are some airlines that would kill for this nice of a tray table, so I love that this is included here. This is a feature you can't even find in the Lincoln Navigator or some of its competitors, so this feature here is such a nice little touch. But again, it comes with a big compromise if you guys want this, but it's definitely very sturdy and very well made. And you can see the seats themselves, they're just as comfortable as the front seats. The massage function works well, the cooled function works well. You have 2 storage cubbies in each of the front seats as well. You have your rear seat air vents up here along with a little hook to hang stuff, although it's missing a grab handle, which would have been nice. The sunroof, you can see, comes into the second row, which is also a nice touch. And then in terms of the headroom, I have a pretty good amount of headroom space at 5'7", and I can also again adjust the lumbar for these seats along with the massage. I can actually recline the seat if I'd like, and the seat actually does this is the most that it reclines, which honestly is not bad, which will eat into your third row space. But I think that for those of you who plan to be driven around, you're really going to like this particular touch. Now, getting to the third row, this is going to be fun because this is the big compromise that you have to make when you add the executive rear seat package. Because if you want to get back here, the regular captain's chairs have the ability to basically flip the seat down and then tumble them forward out of the way. In this model here, you can basically just pull on this little strap here, which is kind of hard to do when you're holding a camera. It'll basically manually slide the seat or recline the seat forward, but it doesn't really do anything. To get back here, you actually have to like sit here and use the seat controls, the power seat controls, and literally wait for this thing to move itself out of the way. And when it finally gets to the end, this is the most that it moves out of the way. As you can see, this is very, very tight. If you guys have really, kind of wide friends or round friends to get into the back seat area, the third row area, this is gonna be a problem. As you can see, the seatbelt is also buckled into that anchor point for the seat, so it's kind of in the way. But let me go ahead and attempt to get back here because I'm hopefully not, oh man, that really does, it really is tight to get back here. But once you get back here, you can see this is with the seat all the way back. You definitely have less rear seat legroom. Cadillac says you have up to 34.9 inches back here, but this definitely feels like you lose about an inch or two because my knees are up against the back of the seat. Thankfully, you do still have storage cubbies. There's actually real leather covering the console back here. The vehicle is wide enough to sit people three across, which is a nice touch. Sadly, however, it looks like, oh, actually you can move the seat. You can actually move the seat forward from back here, which is definitely important. If I move this seat forward here, you have to basically keep pushing this button. This will allow you to kind of get out. Again, it's the same amount of space on the driver's side and on the passenger side, but this is good in case you do actually have somebody here and there's, you want to move them out of the way. It could be a problem though if you have kids. They could be messing with this, but you do have a USB-C charging port. This is nice and leather padded. Cup holders back here. This window is a little bit small. You have a little hook here for something along with your third row air vents, which is a nice touch. Surprised that the third row doesn't have a power recline function. That's something that I've seen from some competitors. At least you also still have a nice Alcantara material. The headroom space, as you can see, is actually pretty good. There's a nice carve out here where I have a cup, like maybe 3 inches of additional clearance. So that's an unexpected touch. The floor is also completely flat here. So once you kind of squeeze through that small opening, you can actually fit adults back here. But just keep in mind, this package here comes with compromises where you don't get as much space in the normal second row captain's chairs. So here we are finally behind the wheel of the thoroughly revised 2025 Cadillac Escalade. Listen to that sound right there. That is a sound that you're not going to hear from its American rivals like the Jeep Grand Wagoneer with its inline six or the Lincoln Navigator with its twin turbo V6. This naturally aspirated 6.2 liter V8 is just pure nostalgia. I love the American muscle noise that it makes. However, I will say that it's going to likely make the Escalade slower versus a lot of its rivals because the power here is completely unchanged. We still have up to 420 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque, hooked up to a 10-speed automatic with the company's full-time four-wheel drive system available for an extra $3,000. The combination seems very solid for this vehicle. In fact, just going down the road, the Escalade has a really great ride quality, and that's the thing that I wasn't able to say about the Lincoln Navigator, and that's because both of these vehicles have 24-inch wheels, but the Escalade just glides over the bumps a lot better thanks to its adaptive air suspension. It makes a noticeable difference, and I think that's where Lincoln did it wrong with the Navigator. They really should have put an adaptive air suspension on that truck to give it the kind of cushier ride. Now, I will say that the ride quality in this vehicle is not as nice as the BMW X6. I have that vehicle relatively fresh in my mind, but remember, the BMW is much smaller. It's a unibody chassis. This is still a body-on-frame truck-based SUV, but it does have an independent rear suspension, which gives it, again, much more interior space and the best ride quality you're going to find in this particular segment. The seats are also incredibly comfortable. I'm sitting here getting a massage. And then in terms of visibility, I can see out of the front and the side quite nicely. It also has a digital camera rear view mirror, which, as you can see, that rear view mirror is going to basically expand your view so you can see everything in case you have really tall passengers or lots of stuff back there that's clouding your vision. But overall, it's just nice. I have this great commanding view of the road. I don't hear a single squeak and rattle in here. And then in terms of the performance, the Navigator that we tested last did 0 to 60 in around 5.5 seconds. The BMW with its twin turbo V8 did it in 3.9 seconds. Now, I don't expect the Escalade to be that fast, but let's go ahead and see what we can get here on this completely flat stretch of straight road. We have the vehicle in its sport setting. We're gonna go ahead and brake torque it, which doesn't really do much. Nice sound though, and smooth shifts from that automatic. All right, we got 6.7 seconds there on our first run, which is perfectly acceptable. I will say that it is around a second slower, if you can believe it, a second slower versus the twin turbo V6 in the Lincoln Navigator. So that's kind of a problem, and that's where you are reminded that this V8, while it is, sonorous, it has the right noises, it does feel a little light on torque. I mean, 460 foot-pounds of torque is certainly not light, but when you've got 510 in the Lincoln Navigator, it's obviously not going to be as, you know, potent as that vehicle. And then the Jeep, the Grand Wagoneer, I think is even faster than the Lincoln, able to hit 60 in the low 5-second range, which is absolutely kind of bonkers to think about. Now, the one thing that the Escalade is missing is a four-wheel steering system. I actually think that Cadillac would have been, you know, wise to include a four-wheel steering system in this vehicle. It would help with the turning radius of this car, but it's certainly not hard to drive. You just kind of have to get used to the additional mass and the additional length. Keep in mind the ESV version is going to make that even more cumbersome, but when you're driving the vehicle normally, the transmission is just smooth. It's really responsive. It shifts through the gears nicely. It puts the engine right in the meat of its power band. It sounds good. It revs all the way up to nearly 6,000 RPM. You gotta love a small block V8. But then when you start hustling the Escalade around corners, this is where you're gonna be wishing you had that BMW X7, because this thing feels ponderous. It has a really softly tuned suspension. The steering, surprisingly, is quick and responsive. It is a power-assisted electric rack and pinion unit, which the vehicle changes directions nicely. It's not hard to drive this car. You just have to get used to the fact that it's 83.5 inches wide. It takes up the entire lane, but at least visibility is good. Along with that digital camera rearview mirror, it certainly helps things out. If you guys also, you know, do a lot of highway trips, the Super Cruise function is also a fantastic partner where it gives you true hands-free driving with automatic lane change assist. I mean, it's similar to Lincoln's Blue Cruise, but I think Cadillac does an even better job with their Super Cruise. It's even better. GM has just been perfecting it over the years. And this interior is also really quiet. It's great for those longer road trips. The only thing you really hear is just a little more wind noise at higher speeds, and then you have that wonderful, you know, wail from the V8, which is a noise that I personally love hearing. So that all to me are all pluses with the Escalade. It's still a nice riding vehicle. It feels well made. It's also extremely comfortable, and it's also extremely just spacious in here, which is what you would expect. Let's try one more run here, 0 to 60 wise. I'm not going to brake torque it this time. All right, on that run, we got 6.59 seconds there. Again, that's without brake torquing it, which I felt like it was actually slowing the truck down. So that's definitely a slightly better time, but still, it is around 0.8 seconds slower than the Navigator, but still 6.6 seconds is not slow. The Escalade V should shave about 2 seconds off that 0 to 60 time. So that's a reason to spend the extra $40,000 if you guys want the Escalade V, because that model starts at $170,000. Now, in terms of fuel efficiency, this is where the Escalade is going to be thirstier versus its 6-cylinder rivals. In my week's worth of testing, I was averaging around 14 mpg and mostly city driving, which is bang on with the EPA's number. On the highway, the best I was able to do was around 21 miles to the gallon, which actually is good. That's better than the EPA's number, but it's also not going to be as good as the 6-cylinder Grand Wagoneer, for example. This is where Cadillac should consider doing maybe a mild hybrid system, a 48-volt system in this vehicle. I think that would certainly help improve the efficiency, but keep the V8, increase the power a little bit more. But once you kind of get past the thirstier fuel consumption, it's certainly not bad. With its 24-gallon fuel tank, I was averaging just under 380 miles of range on a full tank, which is also not too shabby as well. But with its 24-gallon fuel tank, you're going to be spending a pretty penny to, you know, fill up the gas in this vehicle. So it's certainly not going to be, you know, a cheap car to run daily. But that's kind of, again, where the diesel Escalade is going to be missed. But Cadillac got rid of the diesel for a reason, because they essentially wanted you to buy the Escalade IQ, which is going to be the one you're going to get for the best fuel efficiency. Let's try one more run here, just because we've got a straight road and nobody behind us. Oof. .88 seconds there. That's with it more slightly uphill. So 6.6 is our best time, and it makes the Escalade one of the slowest accelerating vehicles in the segment, which is sad because it's the last one with a naturally aspirated V8. But you know, you don't buy a vehicle like this for 0 to 60 times. If you are looking for a car that has massive 24s, lots of great tech, a ride quality that doesn't beat you up, at least for a body-on-frame SUV, this vehicle, with all the updates that Cadillac has made, is certainly going to please a lot of people looking in this particular class. Now, with just over 41,000 units sold in the US last year, the Cadillac Escalade remains the best-selling large body-on-frame three-row luxury SUV. In fact, compared to its rivals, the Escalade outsells its closest one by 2-to-1, which I believe is the Lincoln Navigator. The Jeep Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer is obviously going to be a close third, but after spending a full week with the fully revised version, it's pretty easy to see why so many people continue to buy the latest version of the Escalade. It's one of the few vehicles left that comes standard with a naturally aspirated V8 under the hood, which again gives you those proper V8 noises. Even though it's not quite as quick as some of its twin turbo rivals. You guys saw 0 to 60, you can expect that to be in the low 6-second range, which is going to be plenty fast for most people. If you need more power, the Escalade V will shave that time by about 1.5 seconds to maybe even nearly 2 seconds, depending of course on how often you're going to use the launch control feature. But in terms of the ride quality, this is where the Escalade, I think, has an edge over its closest rival, the Lincoln Navigator, because while both vehicles offer massive 24-inch wheels, Lincoln decided not to go with an adaptive air suspension, which Cadillac did, which basically results in a smoother ride. Now, this doesn't have the best ride quality in the segment. I will say I just had a BMW X7 M60i, and that had an adaptive air suspension and 23-inch wheels, and that to me had the best ride quality in the business, although I haven't had a chance to drive the latest Mercedes-Benz GLS. But some would argue that the Escalade is technically a different vehicle from the X7 and GLS, because this is again got way more interior space, more towing capability, and you just have a much larger vehicle overall because of its body-on-frame chassis design. The interior also gets a massive leap forward in technology. I love the fact that the 55-inch screen in this model at least has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which you can't get in the electric version because GM still refuses to include that software feature in all of its EVs. But in this model, it certainly improves the experience of the 55-inch display. But I have to say, guys, there is a lot of unused real estate in that big 55-inch display, which makes me almost prefer the display in the Lincoln Navigator. Even though the Navigator's display is around 7 inches smaller, I think the layout is actually better. It's within easier reach, especially with a separate touchscreen that's a little bit lower. This was definitely a far reach for me, and while the software with Google based behind it is actually very good, I just think that Cadillac gave it a bigger screen because they wanted the bragging right for it. I just don't think it was absolutely necessary. Thankfully, the interior is still full with premium features. It actually feels to me more luxurious than the last Navigator that I tested. While the interior, again, offers plenty of space, even in the third row, the second row with its executive seating package does come with that compromise because you can't get into the third row very easily. You can't fold down the second row, so you're giving up space. So for me personally, I might skip the $7,500 extra for that executive second row package unless you're planning to be regularly driven around by a chauffeur. So kind of keep that in mind. The styling of this vehicle, I think, is also a big improvement. I mean, it's instantly recognizable as an Escalade. It still turns a lot of heads, and it's no reason why a lot of people still strive to own this vehicle. And it's going to cost you a pretty penny if you guys want one of these, because the current Escalade, while it's actually, gotten more expensive over the years, it actually is still a little cheaper than the current Navigator. And that's because GM technically offers a lower base trim of this vehicle, whereas Lincoln doesn't anymore on the Navigator. But base pricing is basically just under $90,000 for the base version. Add $8,000 if you guys want the premium luxury or the sport trim, which is an extra $500 on top of the already $8,000 from the premium luxury. This particular one that I'm showing you here is the premium luxury platinum trim. It's an extra $20,000, but it does include some nice things like the night vision feature. It's including the touring package, so you get the adaptive suspension, the automatic opening and closing doors, which is a really cool party trick that I actually fell in love with, which you can't find again on most of its rivals. So once you factor that in, my test car with the 24-inch alloy wheels, the executive rear seating package for $7,500, the extra charge for the color, of course, with destination, my test car here comes in at just under $133,000. I know, when did an Escalade become $130,000? The BMW X7 M60 that I just recently tested was also around the same price, but I would argue that the Escalade again offers even more practicality versus the BMW. And this vehicle at the top end is going to be more expensive versus something like the Lincoln Navigator, which again, that vehicle to me is also very, very close. There's also, of course, the Jeep Grand Wagoneer, which is also around $120,000 at the top end. Although I would argue that a Jeep technically doesn't have the same luxury, aspects as a Cadillac. although Jeep has been really hard with the Grand Wagoneer to kind of give you those levels of luxury. But overall, you can't really go wrong in this segment, but it doesn't surprise me why the Escalade continues to be #1, and with the changes that Cadillac has made, it'll only solidify its position as the king of big 3-row body-on-frame luxury SUVs. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2025 Cadillac Escalade in this platinum trim. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.